Hey, what's going on? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back to the GM, man. It is your guy, Boulanger. Been away for a couple of days. Been chaperoning my daughter's senior trip after graduating high school, man. So just finally getting back to the lab and trying to get back to work. And so the one thing I noticed, man, while I was gone is that everything seems to be flying high in Baltimore. What's going on, anti-narrative? Hope you're doing well this morning, sir. Everything seems to be flying high in Baltimore Ravens nation, man. Um, this offseason seems to be like no other offseason that we've had in the last 2 or 3 seasons in what I would call a championship window, right? When you look at the 23-24 season, the 24-25 season, and now we're in the 25-26 off season. This off season seems to be hitting different, right? I don't like to use the word vibes because that could come off as a little cheesy, but what's going on, sir? Hope let's talk Ravens. Yes, sir. It just seems to be a little different feel this off season, right? Everything seems to be at a higher concentration, at a higher emphasis, at a higher level of energy around the Baltimore Ravens. And so we're going to talk about some recent news, and then we're going to get into what feels different. So, as you guys already know, I'm playing catch up, but the Rashad Bateman deal came out a couple of days ago. I think it was maybe Thursday or Friday, maybe as early as Wednesday. So shout out to Rashad Bateman, man, for committing to the Ravens long term. His new deal, 3 years, 36 million, has him through the 2029 season. Shout out to EDC for getting this deal done. And in fact, man, I thought that Rashad Bateman signed a below market deal. I'm not complaining. I am not complaining, but it seems like he committed to the Ravens, wanted to be here, and got the deal done. Man, 3 years, 36 million. I said this before, probably 6 months ago. I said that when Rashad Bateman signs his next extension, he'll probably get the Jacoby Myers deal. Jacoby Myers, of course, was the Patriots, and then he went to the what's that team? The Raiders. He went to the Raiders to be the second or the number two to Devontae Adams. He signed a very similar deal, and I thought that that's what Rashad Bateman would get, and he got something very close, $20 million guaranteed, which is still a real good value, a really good deal. Some can call it a steal for based on what Rashad Bateman can do. What he has done is one thing, but what he can do is something totally different. And so when you really think about the Rashad Bateman deal, man, locks him up through 2029. Lamar Jackson is in the building for the next 2 or 3 seasons under contract, and we know we'll get another deal done with Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry is under contract for the next 2 seasons, and so man, it looks like we are kind of making sure we have our guys in house while this Super Bowl window is open. And when you look at in concert with Zay Flowers is on his rookie deal, which he'll be eligible for the 5th year option after this season. And basically, they're going to give him his 5th year option for sure. And that means he'll be locked up for basically 2 additional seasons. So it looks like the crew will be together uh, for the next 2 seasons at a minimum. There's a couple of other guys you want to add to that mix who need new contracts. We'll talk about that on another day. Also, in concert with the Rashad Bateman deal and kind of what we can forecast for the next couple of seasons, you got the Ronnie Stanley deal. He'll be here for another couple of seasons. You have, let's see who else. You got Roger Rosengarten, who's just going into his 2nd year. He'll be here for the next 3 seasons. You got, let's see, you just drafted the big offensive lineman. I can't even remember his name at this point. Got him in the draft. We got to wait and see what he does in his development. You just drafted Emory Jones. Got to wait and see what he does in his development. And so, man, it looks like we're going to have a nice crew for the next few seasons, man. And so, it's for me, it's a sense of urgency. I think it's now or never. I think there's no better time to take advantage of our roster construction, the deals that are getting done, than right now. A little bit of OTA news, man. When you really kind of look at what's happening around the Baltimore Ravens, you've seen some solid reporting coming out of OTAs. The first week, you didn't get a whole lot. It was kind of close to the vest. The second week, you got a little bit more reporting, and I think we'll get a whole lot of news this week, starting today through, I think it's Thursday, I believe. But a couple of standouts, man, guys that I am excited about is LeJontay Wester. You hear a little bit of buzz about him. Super excited to hear that he's doing well. He's showing his skill set, putting it on full display. I think that he definitely has a great shot as a 6th-round pick to make this roster. Because sometimes you think of those late round picks, 6 and 7 rounders, as kind of throwaway picks, guys who you believe could fill, guys you think who could fill a uh, a roster spot. Yeah, anti-narrative, you're right, man. Once Bashadi opened his mouth and said he wanted to win, things really started to get moving. Maybe he should have said that a couple of seasons ago, but I'm glad to see that things are getting done for sure. Uh, and so LeJontay Wester showed his skill set. I think that he makes that 6th wide receiver. And I think he'll definitely be our number 1 punt returner, barring any type of unforeseen injury. I think he'll be the prime guy in kick returns because of his speed and his twitchiness. I think that he will lock up that job. I don't see anybody else on the roster competing with him for those 2 roles, other than maybe a Tylan Wallace, who has shown that he has a skill set that can do some of those special team things. So shout out to LeJontay Wester, man, for doing his thing. Still in the wide receiver room, Devontae Walker, a lot of buzz about him. And it just definitely sounds like he is settling into his role as an NFL wide receiver. I think he has some good mentors. As I spoke about last Friday, I think, in that pre-recorded video where I talked about the DeAndre Hopkins impact, I thought that it would be felt by Devontae Walker. I can't link it together. I can't say that his improvement and what we're hearing about him is linked directly to DeAndre Hopkins, but I think because of their size, their length, things of that nature, I think that Hopkins is a perfect model or a mentor for a guy like a Walker, simply because uh, they're going to be occupying those same roles in that 3rd and 4th wide receiver spots. And so, man, hope to see some big things from Devontae Walker. I do believe that he's going to have a small breakout season. I think last year he had 1 catch and 1 touchdown. I think, unless he had some other catches that I just don't remember, I think that's what his numbers were kind of last year. So I'm thinking he's going to be somewhere between that 25 to 35. I know that's a wide range, but I think Devontae Walker will land between 25 catches and 35 catches. I think he'll be between 350 yards up to 450 yards with about 4 touchdowns this season. I think that his role will be integral on this team, especially as there will be some games I think we'll be in a shootout and we'll need his deep threat ability. It definitely sounds like his route running has improved. Sounds like his hands are stabilizing and steadying. Excuse me. So, man, it just sounds like that he could be an upgrade in that 4th spot, man. So shout out to both Wester and Devontae Walker, young wide receivers who will be around Baltimore for a couple of seasons. Defensively, a little bit of buzz about Malachi Starks and his athleticism and his skill set, his intelligence. And I think the only other guy defensively that I can remember hearing news about is Odafe Owe. And that was just particularly about his bulking up. Seems like I read that he gained 20 pounds of muscle. Now, I don't know how that impacts his athleticism or his speed overall, but I do think that muscle will help him set the edge even better. He's a great edge setter. And so I think that can only benefit him for sure. A little bit of rumor about edge rusher David Ajabo and the potential that somebody may want to trade for him. I don't know if it's just conversational rumor, meaning somebody just talked it up, or if it's a real rumor linked to a real source. Either way, man, I do think that David Ajabo is going to be at risk of not making this roster because I just believe that there are going to be some other guys who step up. There is a corner, an undrafted corner, who has come away with 2 picks in 2 practices, which says, man, he's going to be pushing somebody above him to step up. I do not remember his name, so if anybody remembers his name in the chat or you want to drop it in the comment section, by all means do so. But I'm always super excited, man, about the guy who comes from under the radar and then gets noticed for his own field performance and production, man. So shout out, man, to the UDFA. I'm gonna look him up again. Anti-Navida, you're right. You're right. I do want to hear something from Trenton Simpson, and I do want to hear something from Teddy Buchanan, uh, because I do want to know who's going to be the pairing with Roquan. Now, in truth, what may end up happening is the Baltimore Ravens may go out and have to bring in another vet to stabilize that position. I don't mind that at all at this point. I think that, again, we are in that window where we can no longer keep waiting on young guys to develop. Either they have it and they're showing it, or they have it and they're not showing it. Doesn't mean you throw them away. It just means it's not their time just yet. And so if we have to go out and get a vet to stabilize the position besides Roquan, I'm certainly okay with that. And that leads me to my next point, man. Listen, I'm gonna have to give a shout out to EDC this time. I have been, you guys know, if you've been sticking with me, man, from the beginning, I have been super, super hard on EDC. His drafting, his roster composition, leaving holes to be filled by rookies and unsurety. And this offseason, he seemed to have hit all of the marks, some questions, some thinness at offensive line. But this is, I think, the best job he's done over the course of his 7-year tenure as the GM. And I think that he has put us in a great cap situation as we sit with roughly $18 million under the cap. And of course, I know that was with the money we saved on the Justin Tucker release with a June 1st designation. That was with money we got back from the Michael Pierce retirement. And that was also the cutting of a Marcus Williams. However, we got it, we got it. So that leaves us money to work with. And that's with no restructuring to any of the bigger deals like a Roquan, like a Meta BK. None of those guys had to be restructured. That means we didn't kick any money down the road to complicate things later on. And so really, man, we don't even have to do a Lamar Jackson deal so quickly, although I think it's coming before the season. But we don't have to be in such a hurry because we have money to add pieces around the edges and or make a trade. I do not see a trade coming at this point in the off season. I do see the Baltimore Ravens making a pickup in some key position. Again, whether it's an offensive lineman, whether it's a veteran linebacker, or whether it's another veteran corner. But we just have to wait and see, right? But let me jump into this second part of our conversation. Excuse me for moving around. Let me jump into the second part of the conversation, man. And that second part of the conversation, which is the major part of the conversation, is it seems like everything in Flock Nation is flying high from the top all the way to the the roster. At the top, you got Steve Bushati, whichever way you want to pronounce it. You have him making a declaration that he wants to win. You see Eric DaCosta getting gear, start getting deals done. You see John Harbaugh seems to be in a good place. He has his coaching staff set. He added some new pieces this offseason. And then you see the roster taking shape, already solid with the reservoir of players we had left from the 2024-25 season. And now you see the draft class coming into form, and you also see the rest of the roster just showing up in OTAs, voluntary workouts, man. And so, hold on one sec. So, here's what's crazy, right? When you kind of compare every other offseason over the last 3 or 4, or you can go back as far as from 2020 this way. Every season, 2020, 21, 22, we had a complaint that something was missing, specifically offensively, right? We were talking about the wide receivers not being up to par. We were talking about the offensive line not being up to par. And some of that was because of injury, things like that, a lot of turnover along the offensive line. We consistently talked about at some point needing a interior linebacker to go along with Patrick Queen. And then we made the trade, of course, for Roquan. We talked about the cornerback room. We talked about all of these things, right? But when we come all the way to the current moment, there's not a whole lot we're talking about or complaining about as it pertains to this roster, right? The Baltimore Ravens have star potential at a lot of major positions. I won't rehearse that. I went through that last week, but we are stabilizing in areas that we formerly were concerned about, right? We have stabilized along the offensive line just with a minor question at left guard. And it seems like Voorhees is getting those first team reps. And maybe he should be going to his third season, right? We questioned why were certain players brought in, but other players let go, right? And now it seems like the pieces are in place now, right? We have our franchise quarterback. That's a check mark. For several seasons, we had been rumored to be interested in Derrick Henry. We saw a couple of trade deadlines where there was a potential Derrick Henry deal on the table that didn't get done. We finally brought him in last offseason. So there's no controversy this season on who, what, when, or where. And he got a contract extension, so we kind of know what the running back room is going to look like, and also the guys behind him. You're seeing deals get done at the wide receiver room, right? We're not even talking about the wide receivers anymore. Do we still need, quote unquote, a big bodied wide receiver? And when I say big bodied, I'm specifically talking about that 6'3" and above guy, possibly. But right now, that's not even a concern. Zay, Bate, D-Hop, sounds like Tez Walker is coming along. LaJohntay Wester is making a little bit of noise. You still got Tylan Wallace. And so it sounds like we've solidified there. And so we got the best tight end room in the league. And so I think that, the concerns we've had are just not there, right? There is no controversy happening this season. There are no contract disputes. Every season, man, there seem to be something crazy happening in our off-season roster composition, right? 2 seasons ago, there was the Lamar Jackson contract controversy, right? A couple of seasons ago, there was a question of bringing in Odell Beckham and would he be a key part of what we do offensively. A couple of seasons ago, that was a transition from Greg Roman, actually 3 seasons ago, a couple of seasons from Greg Roman to Todd Monken, and what would that look like? And could Lamar Jackson be a prolific passer? And all of those questions we have answers to at this point. So it really seems like things are high in Baltimore. And we're going to take a survey around the league probably late this week to see what other teams seem to be stable. There are some controversies around other major competitors. There is some issues happening in Buffalo with their roster. There are some suspensions. There are some injuries up in Buffalo. There is some contention around the Cincinnati Bengals, specifically with their lead pass rusher, Trey Hendrickson. Will he show up? Won't he show up? Will he be traded? Won't he be traded? Right? With the Cleveland Browns, who's going to play quarterback? Right? Sounds like Shador Sanders is, gaining some ground potentially. Who knows? The Pittsburgh Steelers just picked up Aaron Rodgers. What does that do for them? We'll have that discussion on tomorrow about the AFC North. But there seems to be some contention around other AFC competitors. Hadn't heard much of anything out of the Chiefs. So everything must be going well over there. Haven't heard much out of Houston. So everything must be going well over there. But the teams that we have been competing against, meaning in the AFC North and also Buffalo and Kansas City over the last couple of seasons, specifically in the playoffs, um, we seem to have gained ground on everything and everybody who complicated life for us over the last couple of seasons. We no longer have the same issues we used to have. Now, the major question is going to be, can we, the Baltimore Ravens, get out of and stay out of our own way? That's the question. Somebody hit me with a comment a couple of days ago, and they brought up, John Harbaugh still being a potential issue for the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't know. I do know that he has been a bump in the road for us in some occasions, game management, play calling, decision making. But maybe, just maybe, this is a one-off type of year where he lets things come together naturally, organically, and he doesn't try to stir the pot. He doesn't try to be the centerpiece of a show. He just gets in, quote unquote, where he fits in. Yes, he is the head coach. Yes, he is the pioneer of the team. And but maybe he stays out of the way and we handle our business like we need to handle our business. Anti-narrative, yeah, I think you're right. The Steelers need to have a super defense, but in truth, I think they do. TJ Watt is the linchpin that make everything go on that defense. He seems to be coming back healthy this season. We know the back end has improved. They still got Nika Fitzpatrick back there, and we'll talk in depth about them tomorrow. They still got Nika Fitzpatrick back there. They added Darius Slay at one corner. They still got Porter Jr. at the other. They have some good secondary safeties. I'm unsure about their linebacking core, with the exception of Patrick Queen, and their defensive line with the young talent they added is going to be nice. And so, yeah, they're going to have a nice defense, really. And it's a defense that has always caused us trouble. So we'll definitely see. But like I said, we'll talk in depth about that in tomorrow's live. But as it pertains to the Ravens, man, we're in a good place. And a lot of times in June, we're still wondering, who can we pick up? How can we get them? We're still trying to address needs. But when you survey this entire roster, right, we have all 22 starting spots filled with solid talent. I didn't say every spot was filled with elite talent, but every spot is filled with solid talent. And about 90% of that talent was here last year, which means there should be a level of continuity. Excuse me, guys. But, again, offensive line still is the question. But Voorhees again was the starter last season, so hopefully uh, he will have had a off season of training and development because he's fully healthy now. So hopefully he'll be able to take that spot and run with it. And the other four guys were already here. Defensive line with the missing piece of Michael Pierce. But we added a piece. I can't remember his name, but we added a big guy who has a quality career, a quality history of being a run stopper. And so I think we'll be okay along that defensive line. We added some explosion at edge. Linebacker, again, just like offensive line, it's a question beside Roquan. Then the back end, we just need to know who's going to back up Malachi Starks because he's now going to be the starter. And the last thing I'll say, man, before I get out of here, I hope you guys caught it because I caught it. Jalen Armour-Davis got reps at safety, which seems like he may be making sort of a switch. Seems like they may be trying him out as some depth, kind of like Brandon Stevens 2.0. Brandon Stevens started out at safety, moved to corner, back to safety. Then he finished up at corner and has a couple of good seasons, with the exception of his final season here in Baltimore. Jalen Armour-Davis is going into his fourth season. And most people say when he's been on the field, he's been good. I haven't really noticed him, to be honest. But he started out as corner. Now he's getting some work at safety. And so maybe he will be able to kind of stand in that backup safety role again, if he can stay healthy. But we'll see. Man, so that's what I got for you guys, man, today. Just wanted to kind of catch up with all the news, give you some of my perspective, and talk about how it seems like everything in Ravens Nation seems to be good right now. I do expect little bit of a betting favorite for me. I want you guys to jump into the comment section when you guys watch this video, whether you're watching it live or in the record. Who gets the next extension? All right, here's our three candidates. Is it Lamar Jackson? Is it Kyle Hamilton? Is it Isaiah Likely? Who gets the next extension from the Baltimore Ravens? Now, let me throw in a bonus, kind of a mystery dude. Or is it Daniel Falele? Is it Daniel Falele? I do think Falele is a real option to get an extension. Again, man, you don't find many 19-game starters in the NFL with his size, his health, meaning he's been healthy, and going into his fourth season as a fourth-round pick, and still has many detractors, still has many doubters, but I believe he's going to have his best year yet. So I think it'd be wise if the Baltimore Ravens, kind of ink him to a 2-year, I don't know what, $12 million, 2 years, $13 million, something like the Patrick McCarvey deal. A big, massive dude who can play both guard and also tackle. Maybe worth just keeping him around. I mean, shoot, think about it. Think about it. We kept Ben Cleveland around, and he never broke into the starting rotation. So you guys let me know what you guys want me to know, man. I appreciate you guys. I will catch you guys tomorrow, and we'll get some updates on today's OTAs. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the AFC North and whatever else you guys have on your heart. I'm your guy Boulanger, and I'm out.